Integrating in-person and virtual and work environments is a part of almost every conversation I have today. Business owners, principals, vice presidents, directors, and department heads are all wondering, how is this thing going to look on the other side of COVID? Whether that's 30 days or whether that's 3 months, what's this going to be like? Well, we have to give ourselves some credit. We made a lot of great changes when we had to start this pandemic, but all living things need to change when they're forced or they cease to exist. The true measure of greatness is when we can design change and implement that change to have a positive effect on our team and our performance overall. So in this video, I want to give you 3 things to think about as you begin to plan what the future of business looks like for you and your team. I'm Don Pakula, founder of Golden Goose Services. We help individuals and companies get where they want to go by uncapping their potential. Please like and share this video. Maybe someone you know needs to see this because this is 2 minutes to be great. Obviously, this conversation is going to change a lot depending on your particular circumstances, depending on your lease, depending on your industry, depending on what happens to COVID vaccines, depending on what happens to further restrictions or loosening up as we go forward. But what are 3 things you can think about and 3 things you can control to build into your plan on purpose of what business will look like for you going forward? The first thing I want you to think about is what's the makeup of your team as far as veterans and new people? And by new people, I don't mean just people you hired this year, but go back to 2018 and think about who have I brought on board since 2019, 2020, and 2021. These people have joined your team and they owe the vast majority of their experience with you and your team and your company in a pandemic. Probably not the representation you would give them had anything been normal. So think, how am I folding them into the culture? How am I getting them caught up without the water cooler, without the lunches, without the cup of coffee? Intentionally find ways to bring them on now, but also think, is this an important part of structure to my team when we get back together? The next part I want you to think about is, how did the team perform during COVID? Was the remote work kind of slow, clunky, a lot of distractions, or did we get a lot of stuff done? Now, that could be made up in a couple different ways. We could have just let things happen to us and evolved, or maybe along the way we set clear expectations and really managed a lot of the key metrics as we were before, but just in a remote environment. So think about, did they do well? Did they function efficiently? Did we get more done or a reasonable amount done, or did we get hardly anything done? But if you said, hey, we did poorly, don't automatically assume you have to go back in person. Maybe you actually need to work on your remote process. Maybe you need to have 1 day a week or 1 day a month where your team is remote on purpose to develop those skills. But this time you'll put the expectations and the guidelines in place so they know exactly what's expected of them. And the last thing I want you to consider is, how often should you get your team together without talking about business in person? Even companies that are completely remote, 100% remote, different ends of the country, different ends of the world, should probably still get together once a year. And it doesn't have to be about work. It could be about family. It could be about awards. It can be about just a dinner or a night out. Think about what that can do at bringing back and getting the teams back together to start to bring that energy back. Now, for you, it may be quarterly. It may be monthly. It may be weekly. And for some, it's going to be daily. But think about how that's going to work in your business. And as you put these things together, start thinking about who's going to own this message. When is this going to happen? How are we going to roll it out? And what the expectations are going to be in communication going forward. Now go out there, start getting this stuff on paper, and go be great.